If you're thinking about moving to Las Cruces, one of the biggest questions you probably have is, what does it actually cost to live here? And I'm not just talking about the price of a house. What are your property taxes going to look like? How bad is the electric bill when 105 degrees hits outside? What about insurance and groceries and gas, HOAs, home maintenance, and all those little expenses nobody really thinks about until they actually move? Because I can sit here and tell you Las Cruces is affordable, but affordable compared to what? If you're coming from California, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, or even another part of New Mexico, your idea of affordable might be completely different. So instead of throwing a bunch of national averages at you, I want to talk about what it actually costs to live in Las Cruces, and most importantly, what kind of lifestyle your money can buy you here. I'm Elaine. I am a local realtor here in Las Cruces, and I work with a lot of people relocating to our area. And if that's you, before we get too far into this, I do have a free relocation guide linked below. It covers neighborhoods, things to know before you even move, local resources, and a lot of the questions I get from people before they ever even get here. Grab that and then come back, because we're getting into housing, property taxes, insurance, utilities, electric bills, transportation, groceries, entertainment, home maintenance, and even the El Paso factor, because the cost of living isn't just how much is the house. It's really what kind of life can I afford to live here. Let's talk housing. What does your money actually buy you? Obviously, housing is going to be your biggest expense. But what I like about Las Cruces is that the same budget can give you very different lifestyles depending on what matters to you. So if you're looking for a brand new home or a brand new construction, we can often find options starting somewhere between the mid 300s, depending on the builder, location, incentives, and what is available at the time. So if you're open to a resale home, your money can stretch a little differently. Once you move into the 4 and the 500s, you start opening up a lot more choices. Maybe you want a newer construction with modern finishes and very little maintenance. Maybe you want an established neighborhood with mature trees. Maybe you want a bigger backyard. You want to live close to a golf course. You want mountain views, something closer to restaurants and shopping. Maybe you want more land and you couldn't care less if you have to drive an extra 10 minutes to get to groceries. That's why when somebody calls me and says, Elaine, I have a $500,000 budget, where should I live? I usually need a little more information, because $500,000 doesn't automatically put you in one particular neighborhood here. I want to know what you want that $500,000 can do for you. Do you want brand new? Do you want land? Do you want views? Do you want to, live by a golf course? Are you looking for some historic charm? Low maintenance? Do you want to be 5 minutes from everything, or would you gladly drive 10 or 15 minutes farther if it meant sitting in your patio every evening looking at the Oregon mountains? Once you get into the 700,000 and above, we can start seeing some really beautiful custom properties, larger lots, incredible outdoor living spaces, privacy, and some incredible mountain and city views. But again, sometimes those homes come with a trade-off. More space can mean being further away from everyday conveniences. And neither option is better. It's just a different version of living here in Las Cruces. Let's go into property taxes. So property taxes are another area where relocation buyers usually have a lot of questions. And there's one mistake I do not want you to make when you're looking at homes online. Don't assume the current owner's property tax bill is going to be your property tax bill. You might pull up a house online and say, hey, Elaine, that taxes are only this much. And I'm going to say, okay, but hold on. New Mexico limits how quickly the assessed value of a certain residential property can increase while it remains under the same ownership. That can be great for somebody who has owned their home for a lifetime. But when the property sells, that old capped value doesn't necessarily follow the new property owner. So if somebody has owned a house for 20 years, their property taxes may look fantastic. Yours may not look exactly the same after the property changes hands. So another thing that can be confusing if you're coming from another state is how property taxes are calculated here. Generally, the taxable value is based on 1/3 of the property's assessed value, and then the applicable local taxes are applied. Those rates can vary depending on where the property is located. There can also be exemptions available to qualified homeowners, including certain veterans and head of family exceptions. The main thing I want you to remember is this: don't build your budget around the seller's current tax bill. We can look at the property, at its location, and the current information available and get much more realistic idea of what you should be prepared for. Homeowners insurance. So insurance is another one where I don't love giving people one magic number. Two houses that cost exactly the same can have completely different insurance premiums. Insurance companies are looking at things like how old is the house, how old is the roof, are the electrical and plumbing systems been updated, what type of heating and cooling does it have, where is the property located, and what would it cost to rebuild that house. That becomes especially important when you're looking at older homes. You might fall in love with this gorgeous southwestern home with tons of character, but if the electrical and the plumbing or the roof haven't been updated, I want you talking to an insurance agent early. And the same goes for properties further outside of town or in areas where wildfires exposures may be different. I do have relocation buyers who are pleasantly surprised by what the quoted here compared to where they're coming from. But I'm never going to tell you insurance is cheap in Las Cruces. That's way too dependent on the house. Shop insurances early. And if we're comparing two homes, maybe a brand new construction versus a 30-year-old house, insurance should be a part of that comparison. One more thing, standard homeowners insurance generally does not include flood coverage. Flood insurance is separate, so depending on the property and location, that may be something else you want to discuss with your insurance professional. We do not have a ton of flood zones here in Las Cruces, but they do kind of peekaboo throughout the area, so you know, something to look at when we're looking at homes. One of the biggest questions I get during the summer is, what do electric bills look like? Okay, yes, it gets very hot here, very, very hot. And if you're buying a home with refrigerated air, your summer electric usage is definitely something you want to budget for. But the house itself makes a huge difference. When I'm touring home with relocation buyers, I'm looking at the windows, the insulation, the age and efficiency of the HVAC system, how well the house is sealed, how much direct afternoon sun hits in the property. I like seeing 2x6 construction because there can be more room for insulation, but that alone doesn't magically make a house efficient. Good windows really do matter, and good insulation matters. A maintained HVAC system matters. Solar screens, shade, covered patios, and smart thermostats can help you too. And this is one reason I really love some of our southwestern architecture. Those courtyards and deep covered patios aren't just pretty. Shade is your friend in the desert. Then there's solar. If we find a house with solar, great. But we're digging deeper. Is it owned? Is it financed? Is it leased? How old is the system? What does it actually produce? Because solar panels on a roof do not automatically mean woohoo, free electricity forever. I wish, right? If you're serious about a particular resale home, I also like asking for utility history when it's available. It won't tell you exactly what your bill will be. One person keeps their house at 68 degrees, another person might keep it at 78. Those two people should probably never share a thermostat, but utility history can at least give us another piece of information about what that particular home has cost to operate. So instead of only asking what's the average electric bill in Las Cruces, I'd rather ask how energy efficient is a house you're actually buying. That's what number matters the most. Water, gas, trash, internet. Now we get into the more glamorous stuff. Water, gas, trash, wastewater. Nobody has ever opened the front door house and screamed, oh my gosh, look at this sewer connection. By the way, guys, I'm at a home inspection right now, so you'll see people in and out, okay? All right, back to it. Utility providers can change depending on where the property is located. Some homes may have city utilities, others may use different water providers. Once we start looking further outside of the town or at properties with more land, I'm paying even more attention to things. Is the property on sewer or is it on septic? Is it natural gas or propane? Who's providing the water? Who handles the trash? And then there's internet. If you work from home, please check this before buying any house. Internet availability and speed can vary by address, and your beautiful desert beam home gets slightly less streamy if your Zoom call freezes every 5 minutes, right? So for my remote workers, internet is absolutely part of our property search. Guys, I mean, it is Las Cruces. We are a city, and even though we are behind a little bit on times, we have internet mostly everywhere, okay? But that's why I do not like answering like, what do utilities cost in Las Cruces with one number? Two houses, 15 minutes apart, can have completely different setups. Biggest thing here is transportation. Transportation is one area where I will brag about Las Cruces a little bit. If you're moving from somewhere where you plan your entire life around the traffic, welcome. You're about to get some time back. Do we have traffic? Of course. You'll notice it in the mornings, around lunch, around 5 o'clock, but we're generally not talking about sitting on a freeway for an hour questioning every decision you've ever made. Usually you're adding a few minutes to your drive, and I think people forget that time is part of cost of living too. Now, I do think people living in Las Cruces are going to want a car. We do have public transportation, but this isn't really a city where most people live a completely walkable lifestyle. The funny thing is, things aren't necessarily far away. They're not just always at a walking distance. There are exceptions. So if you live around the downtown area, you may be able to walk to restaurants, coffee shops, breweries, events, the farmer's market. Well, Mesilla gives you another walkable little pocket with restaurant shops and the plaza. But for everyday life, most people are driving. The upside is once you get a car, you're usually not spending half your day in it. I drive all over the city.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
What's up?
I drive all over the city for a living, and being able to get across town without packing snacks for the commute is something I really do appreciate. Groceries. Now, groceries, I would love to tell you that we're going to move to Las Cruces and suddenly your grocery bill is going to be cut in half. Probably not. Groceries are one expense where I personally don't feel like we're dramatically cheaper than everywhere else. You're still going to feel it when you fill up your cart. And because prices change constantly, instead of sitting there giving you some generic average grocery bill, I'd rather actually show you. I'm going to take you to a grocery store and look at regular stuff people buy, which is like milk, eggs, bread, meat, produce, maybe a bottle of wine. So for research purposes, obviously one advantage we do have goes back to transportation. Most of us aren't driving 30 or 40 minutes to get to groceries. Everyday shopping is usually pretty convenient. So if you're comparing Las Cruces to where you live now, I wouldn't automatically assume groceries are, well, you're saving your money. Housing, taxes, transportation, and the overall lifestyle may tell you a much better story. So entertainment and lifestyle, right? Entertainment is where Las Cruces can feel very different from a bigger city if that is where you're coming from. If you want clubs until 2 a.m, massive concerts every weekend, and nonstop nightlife, we should probably talk. Las Cruces is slower, and for some of us, that is exactly the point. Our really good day here might be a lunch on a patio with a cold beer, a round of golf, hiking around Dripping Springs, walking through Mesilla, spending an evening at a winery, or meeting friends somewhere for dinner. Golf is huge here. We have courses on different sides of town. So if golf is your thing, you have plenty of opportunities to spend money there. Our evenings also tend to end earlier. During the week especially, Las Cruces gets pretty quiet at night. Even on the weekends, we're not exactly competing with Vegas. I'm okay with that. Give me food, give me a patio, something cold to drink, mountains in the background, and people I love. I'm entertained. Now, the El Paso factor, that is something I think every person considering Las Cruces should understand. El Paso is part of the equation. I love Las Cruces, but I'm not going to pretend we have everything. Sometimes you're going to be going to El Paso. That might be for the airport, that might be for more shopping, for a concert, a bigger selection of restaurants. Sometimes healthcare and specialists that may not be readily available here. And I actually really like the relationship between the two cities. I can go to El Paso and catch a flight. I can shop, I can see a show, I can eat somewhere nice, do whatever I need to do, and then get home to Las Cruces. I get access to have a bigger city without actually having to live in one. From a cost of living standpoint, you do want to factor in those trips. Gas, airport parking, maybe the occasional medical appointments, entertainment, but for most people, it isn't an everyday commute, really. And I think having El Paso close enough to when you need it while still getting a slower lifestyle here is pretty nice balance. The home maintenance in the desert, and there's something people sometimes forget when they're calculating the cost of living. The house itself needs money. We live in the desert and our climate creates its own maintenance list. Cooling systems are going to be the big one. The absolute worst time to discover your AC isn't working is when it's 105 degrees outside. So maintenance matters. Your roof matters too. We do get intense sun and we get wind and monsoon storms, so roof condition is always something I'm paying attention to when we're looking at homes. Then there's landscaping. Desert landscaping can be absolutely lower maintenance, but lower maintenance does not mean you never touch it again. You may still have irrigation systems, weeds, especially right now during the monsoon season, trees, gravel, xeriscaping, and landscaping that needs attention. And if you fall in love with a huge green lawn, it can absolutely be beautiful. Just remember where you live. We're in the desert. Keeping all of that green is going to require water and maintenance. And then we have pest control. We share the desert with a few creatures who occasionally forget the agreement that they stay outside and we stay inside. So yes, I would absolutely build regular maintenance into your cost of living budget. Owning a house here isn't unusually difficult. It's just different. Those little pesky critters like to come inside. The desert is beautiful. It just occasionally sends you an invoice. So is Las Cruces cheap after all that? I actually don't love calling it cheap because some things really aren't. Groceries aren't magically half price. You're probably going to need a car. Your electric bill can climb during the summer. And depending on what kind of house and lifestyle you want, you can absolutely spend some money here. What I think surprises people is what their money can buy them overall. Maybe that's a brand new house in the 300s. Maybe it's a beautiful home in the 400s with a patio and mountain views. Maybe it's having more space than you could afford where you live now. Maybe it's your property taxes, or maybe it's the biggest difference isn't just actually a bill. Maybe it's spending less time commuting. The grocery store is 10 minutes away. You can get across town without giving yourself an extra hour. You can play golf, hike, sit on your patio, meet your friends for dinner, and still have part of your day left. So when somebody asks me, Elaine, what does it cost to live in Las Cruces? I don't think there's like a magical number that answers that. It depends on the house you buy, where you live, and how you spend your time, and what kind of everyday life you want. So instead of only asking, is Las Cruces cheaper than where I live now? I think the better question is, what kind of life could I afford to live in Las Cruces? And if you're seriously thinking about moving here, that's exactly what I help my relocation buyers figure out. Reach out to me and tell me where you're coming from, what your budget looks like, and even more importantly, what you want your everyday life to look like. My email and my phone number are in the links. And if you're still in the research phase, make sure you grab my free relocation guide below. And if you have made it this far into a video about property taxes, electric bills, and wastewater connections, you're probably pretty serious about Las Cruces. So you should also subscribe to my Las Cruces newsletter. Every week, I do share what's happening around town, housing, market updates, places where I like to eat, local businesses, things to do, and what it's actually like to live here. It's a really easy way to start getting to know Las Cruces before you ever move. I'll see you on the next one.